It's now time for us to check with Dr. Bruce Chitsungo on Family Focus. Quite an interesting topic we're discussing today, and we get right into it already. So with Dr. Bruce this morning, we are going to be talking about unfinished goodbyes, the weight of regret in grief. So what we're going to be focusing on is issues to do with guilt, issues to deal with missed closure, issues to deal with unresolved emotional bonds. And we won't just be talking about grief. We'll be talking about everything that's around that area. Let me... Good morning to Dr. Bruce before we get in already. Achiremba Mangwana ni Mamugaze.
Good morning, Mr. Dobby. What a powerful session we are going to be having.
Quite a powerful one. I'm looking forward to it, and quite impactful indeed. And I am hoping that it helps to bring closure to those who still feel like they have unfinished goodbyes to the loved ones that they lost.
Yeah, same here, boss.
I do have a few friends, not many, just a few friends who lost their loved ones, and it hasn't been quite easy for them. And I believe that they will benefit much from the conversation that we're going to be having today.
Yeah, that's true. And also maybe there are some who haven't experienced it, but maybe by just listening to us, it best prepares them, because loss, sometimes it's part of life.
Indeed.
You don't really plan for it, but it's nowhere can allow you.
And so, because you mentioned that we don't plan for it, kazhinji kacho nekuti hazvina kurongwa, tinopotsana nemukana wekuonekana. Unozongosara uchiti dai ndakawana mukana, dai ndakati babai, dai ndakawana mukana ndakamuudza masoko ekupedzisira ekuti. But because these things are not planned, it happens to us. Takavarairwa tisingatarisire. We never have the chance to say goodbye, and that's one of the most painful things.
That's true.
So as we get in, Doctor, to talk about such a heavy and heartfelt discussion, maybe what we might want to start doing is to understand the different types of grief, because I'd like to believe people don't grieve the same way, and we all grieve differently. I remember when I lost my grandmother, one of the most favorite women in my life. It was back in 2010. My way of grief was quite mixed, and I couldn't really follow through the pattern. The first few times when I heard that she had passed on, I couldn't believe it. I was in denial for a while, and then when it eventually sank in, it broke me. It broke me apart, and that made me to realize, seeing other people and how they grieved. We all grieve in different ways. What are the different types of grief that are there?
All right, thank you, Mr. Dobby. To break this down, we have what we call delayed grief. This usually happens when you couldn't feel, or you don't feel it when it happens. It's a grief here. Sometimes you are invested so much in trying to make the person well, or to the extent that when they leave and when they pass on, you are not in any position to really accept it. So some funga, or they imagine that the person is going to appear somehow, or they are in denial, if we can put it that way. And then the other one is what I call complicated grief.
Okay.
Where you have a lot of guilt, regret, unanswered questions, This usually is characterized by those people who suddenly pass on. There are people who can be well today, and then suddenly, I think we all experienced this, or some experienced it during the COVID-19 season, where someone was healthy, and then 2 minutes later, you just hear they were admitted, and you think if I go in the morning to see them, it will still be okay. Then within seconds, you hear they are already gone. And some, these days, we are facing a lot of road accidents. You're anticipating that someone is going to come back home. I remember there's a case that once happened here in Harare where a family had just gone in town to buy school preparations, and all. When the father crossed the road to maybe pay the marshals, on his way to try to cross back, he was hit by a car. And you can now imagine those children that were in the car watching their parents. So it's complicated because my expectations were to open them town to Tenga Henry, to Zoka. But that changed the whole thing. Then the last one, there are many types, but the last one that we can focus on is trauma-linked grief. It's like the one that we are talking about, where there is violence involved, and there is shock, and there is violation. There are people who experience horror before death or before loss. Again, I'll reference some story that was in the news recently of a businessman who was killed. And sometimes these robbers, they come in, they violate people, or there's just violence. So there is trauma linked. These griefs, Mr. Dobby, they are different from just your normal grief. I lost someone.
And when you were talking, I was trying to find where I am, and I found myself around a complicated grief. You mentioned COVID-19. So in COVID-19, I didn't lose someone. Almost when COVID-19 was when we were just about to get to the end of the lockdowns, I found someone instead of losing someone. I found someone, and we developed something, and it was nice. It was beautiful. We were in the same line of work, and we found each other on set. Then we broke up. Yes. But when we broke up, she thought we could fix things. She thought we could get back together. And she kept fighting for that. She kept fighting for the idea of, let's get back together. She had not really done me any wrong. I couldn't point to what she had done wrong, but I just thought this was not the relationship that I wanted. But we kept on being friends. We kept talking. We kept calling each other every now and then, but without a relationship going, because I thought there was no relationship to pursue. But she thought we could get back together. And we then, after some while, didn't get to talk. I think for about 3-4 months, we were not talking. We would speak maybe once in a while, maybe over text. Then I passed through a place where I had introduced her, and the people there had started to get more accustomed to her than me, although I'd introduced her to that space. And one of the people there said, "When last did you see Ningi Ningi? I thought you guys were friends." They said, yes, it has been a while. And they said, "Did you know she's in hospital?" I said, "No, I didn't know anything about it." So when I heard about that, I thought it was one of those illnesses, amanya hospital, maybe you know. So I tried her number, and her mother answered the phone. And I asked about it. She said, "No, tamsiya hospital, arimuwadi yakati yakati." So one mind in me was saying, It was around 3 p.m. and I had asked kuti visiting time inguvai. And I had realized kuti ndandapotsa visiting time yemascat. And I'm thinking, yemani ndogona kutadza kuibata because I needed to be somewhere. So I thought, no, ndozoyenda mangwana kunomuona. Then something in me kicked and said, no, even visiting time yafura, let me go find my way in. I'll find my way of getting in there. So I went to the hospital that day. Got into the hospital, I convinced the nurses to go in and see her. And then I saw her. The state that she was in, my heart broke. I almost shed a tear. I remember walking out of the ward, trying to hold down chigodo chia chepahorochi. I spoke to her, but I said, hi, it's Aaron. I don't even know if she heard me. Then I got out of the hospital. Nandine plan yekuti, no, since I farra kuverenga and stuff, maybe I would come back and read some books to her. Pesepanda want a chance for visiting. I would come read a passage, a book. I planned that in my head. Then, mangwani acho, makusen, one of my cousins, vandifonera. Shkanzi mkoma. Makapetsira kutaura na ningirini. I said, no, ndandire ku hospital nizura asikunzwa zvakanaka. Shkanzi ndanzwa makuwa kubasa because vakamboshanda vese. You know, ndanzwa makuwa kubasa ikunzanza ashai. I said, no way. I called number Nandakambofona here when I spoke to the mom. And it was answered by the young sister, and the young sister confirmed and said, yes. Hakusinamun. I don't know, for some reason, I have lived with a lot of regret from then. This happened in 2024. She passed on in 2024 in November, December, somewhere then. But Nanase, I don't know, I have guilt. The crime I did, I don't know. I just feel like I could have done something. What could I have done? I don't know. I just think maybe she could have lived. And sometimes I think maybe if I had taken her back pied, I would throw her back. Maybe she might have lived. But I'm like, but I'm not God. I might not have. I don't know what hit her or what. You know, all those. So when you said complicated grief involves guilt, regret, and unanswered questions, I saw myself in there. Well, quite a topic we have. Quite a topic we have. What do you think happens, Doc? What do you think happens when we interrupt grief? Maybe someone wants to grieve and we stop them from grieving. We stop them from crying. We stop them, or maybe we don't stop them, but they stop themselves. Like, for example, I'm thinking maybe for this friend of mine, I didn't allow myself the time to grieve. I stopped myself from grieving. I was like, no, I'm a man. I don't cry. And also, there was nothing going on between us. She was just that friend one day, so there's no need for me to grieve or anything. And I feel like maybe I stopped myself from grieving. And I feel like other people do that. They stop themselves from grieving for one reason or the other. Or maybe for the reason, I'm a man, I shouldn't be seen crying. Kind of for the reason, I need to be strong for the children. Or one reason or the other. We stop ourselves from grieving. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Whatever answer you give, why is that? When grief is interrupted, what happens?
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I really felt it. You know, when we don't express our grief, we have to understand that grief is not loud. Mm-hmm. It's very silent. Yeah. It can go on for months, some even for years. Mm-hmm. I recently learned someone got akarwadziswa achitori mudiki asakatombochata asakatombororwa, but she couldn't get over it till she was old, in her 60s, 70s. So you then realize when people come for therapy, you then see a pattern. What is this thing going on now? But when I remember, if I can just take you back, Rishoma, we were talking about in family matters, issues within a family. Avatotauri ukazonda kutrace masystems iwawo, you will find probably the parents have some system malfunctioning yakazotanga kudhara yekuti the same thing that this atinyorera uya would have be complaining. That's the same system that probably their parents would have lived through, and they are just replaying it now to their kids. So that's what I feel. And to really respond to your question, to what happens, just a few things. Number one, there's emotional numbness. When I'm talking about emotional numbness, you don't feel anything anymore.
Okay.
And then there is also anger. It misdirected here. Instead, the normal anger we all experience is tied to something. Probably you are angry because of this. You can trace it to something. But when you have interrupted grief, you become irritable. Very easy. And I can give you an example. You have another relation with another person, but just because you did not heal that grief, you find yourself expressing yourself in anger. And the last one, which you have already showed us, is guilt. You have these inner voices or inner conversations where you ask yourself, I should have done this. I know of people who do that. Mr. Dobby, in most cases, it's these questions now, it's these moments that you feel good, but I didn't say goodbye. If I can also quote you, your question would be, Akandin's way, Piper. And Muti Chadzoka. And the last one would be, very soon, like I see what Munwesen tinosara chekubvunza kuti aizviziva here kuti ari kuenda ndo chaitori chionekedzana here chiya did I miss a sign? Did I not read into what they were saying? So those are some of the things that happen if we don't listen or if we don't grieve the way we should be.
Yeah, quite some heavy topic we have today. Really a heavy one. So you mentioned the things that happen inside a person. You mentioned emotional numbness. You mentioned misdirected anger. You mentioned guilt, flashbacks. What's the impact in relationships, especially with those that are left? Does my grief then impact the relationship that I have with those that are still alive, those that are still around me?
Yeah, the common symptoms or the common signs and impacts that it has on relationships is, for me, isolation, though I know the biggest. There are people who are isolated, not because they are alone, but in the presence of other people, in the presence of other partners, who don't feel very isolated. Some, they have trust issues, especially if your grief is associated with trauma, because your trust was broken, your trust was intruded, but the intrusion somehow, so it's very difficult for you to trust again. The last one is also difficult in connecting emotionally. To just wrap up your impact, you have vanhu vanotocomplaina kuti is it normal for a married woman kuti anyore pastatus pake paanniversary yemumwe wake akashaika kuti I miss you mofu, makasiya ronda, something. Those we will never understand these impacts or these signs if you don't put yourself in the shoes emunhu akashaikirwa kuti munhu akaita loss, because grief is this difficulty yekutoti I always give this allegory. It's easy for you to treat a wound rinooneka because you think chironda kaichi, but ini mataura zvakanaka mukati pane kai kanogara pahuro kaike. Yeah, you don't. What pill do you take for that? What medicine can you prescribe someone and a heartbreak? You know, you can't help your tears; they are coming out. But you just cannot handle it. That's what we are calling grief and its expressions.
I am finding myself in today's conversation a lot. You know, I am relating to this conversation a lot. You mentioned when we spoke about the impact on relationships, you mentioned isolation, even when you're not alone, being lonely in a crowd. And you also mentioned something that I can strongly relate to. You said disconnecting emotionally. So the reason why I needed to pick out on disconnecting emotionally is because I think this will help us to understand some people. I'm understanding myself, and I'm thinking some other people will be able to understand some other people as well. There are people who seem like very rough, kana kuti vasina moyo vasingakendenge. Kwete nekuti havana moyo, kwete nekuti havakendenge, kwete nekuti vari rough. But they just disconnected emotionally because probably they had a huge loss that they did not process properly. I say this, Doc, especially because I found that in most of the relationships that I have been in, kana paine one of the common words dzinotaurwa nevanhu vandakambopinda navo relationships, they all say the same thing. Aron say usina moyo. But I don't find myself semunhu asina moyo. But there are certain things that they say or certain things that happen where I'm expected kuti ndivhunduke nazvo, and mwoyo wangu unoita kunge wakatsitswa nesimbi inopisa yekuti hazvindivhundutse. It's nothing. I no longer connect in that way emotionally. There's something that needs to be heavier than my loss for me to be moved. If it's anything equal to my loss or below my loss, I'm not moved. So thank you, Doc, for bringing this topic. I'm finding a lot of relatability in it, and I'm hoping that I hope that many people are getting helped because of this discussion that we're having.
Yeah, you're welcome. See.
Well, let's get to something quite important here. Having mentioned these things for myself and for others, of course, there's one thing that we need, myself and others. This is a topic that I once did, and I spoke so passionately about. I moved almost all over Zimbabwe talking about this topic in movements that I called tea parties. We were talking about healing. I moved around with a theme that I said, that was in 2024. I moved around with a theme that said, we all need to heal because hurt people. And I realized in my life, I have hurt people unintentionally. Many people. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because there was something in me that was off. So I go about because of that disconnection emotionally and everything. And I am realizing I am still deserving to walk the path of healing. And so is the person who is listening right now. We need to heal. How do we pursue the path of healing?
Okay. So the practical ways to heal is to probably name the loss properly. We have a problem in our society. We generalize things. We don't name things as they are. So the danger there is you might actually be heading for a crash, but because you cannot identify that crash, or you don't identify that I need help, a problem until it damages you. This is why you see a lot of us with problems or why? Because we don't seek help easily or fast enough. But let's name our loss properly and don't feel guilty because of what you are feeling. If you feel you have not accepted, if you feel cheated, because there are people who are like that, vakatoita magrudge nevanhu vakafa nekuti izvezvi anenge achirwadziwa, but kwete nevapenyu. You are a widow and you feel like you had your partner akakushort change, akakusiyira vana, akangokusiya. I've dealt with clients like that where people are grieving, and not just grieving, but they blame the other partner. He was selfish. Another serious way that we need to heal is to allow grief to come in stages. I think we've spoken about this. Good society places a lot of pressure on someone as I care. After 4 days, 5 days, to expect to mono and to get basa and to change, you know. And maybe I need to say this: most of our grief clients, they do not come vega kuti iye ndiandofona kana kutsvaga help. It takes someone who is responsible in their circle kuti aone kuti Mr. Dobby, the way he's reacting to this loss, this person is not well. So I'm just encouraging those who are listening. It might not be you directly, but if a relative who you're actually noticing that they're not behaving well, because some, they even now plummet into depression, plummet into drugs, because they're not well. It's grief. So if we are not on the lookout, there is no healing, there is no path in Ngeakutorika, because to what are you saying or are not gone, if they actually need someone to hold their hand.
No, thank you, Doc. And whilst we're talking about that, the need for someone to hold their hand, I know at Roots of Love, you do a number of things in assisting, but when it comes to grief, how also do you come in as Roots of Love therapy?
So far what we have done is we do grief therapy sessions. We have actually done this as a culture. We charge half of the price that we do for any other sessions. And also we have what we call trauma-informed the case you come in and we have other people that we have been helping. We form support groups where these ones, they can actually be very free, where we just join you with someone or with other people who have suffered or who have gone through what you're going through, and talk about guy, and we do frequent sessions as groups where people just talk. And some of these, Mr. Dobby, they are actually virtual, where we just form a group. We invite a chaplain, we invite a psychologist who can just come in there an hour, 20 minutes, they share something, and these people are open. Then we discuss, and we are just trying to create that environment until you feel good. I am not alone.
No, thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate the great work that you are doing at Roots of Love therapy sessions. If ever we need this, either for ourselves or for friends or family whom we think might be in great need for counseling or for these support groups, how best can we get in touch with you?
So you can get in touch with Dr. Bruce Chitsungo and Roots of Love Family Therapy on +263 786 585 382. That's 0786 585 382.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We have a special message here that's coming in from Chairman Black Moses in Highfields, and he says, the dissection is deep. May this reach out to all the corners of our society.
Yeah, we hope so too.
Indeed. I will close this session with a special song. It's one of my favorite songs from Takura and K-Chaps. It's a song called Kwita Kwashe. And it's a song that speaks about grief in two different dimensions.